eat mushrooms? Just regular mushrooms. Great, okay. Who here thinks that mushrooms created humanity? Okay, a man named Terence McKenna thinks this. He's a mycologist. Hi, I'm Madison, and today I'm going to be talking about Terence McKenna's stoned ape theory. I hope that after my speech today you guys know a little bit more about this crazy little theory from the 60s. So I read Terence McKenna's book, Who the Gods, around 2 years ago, and I was really interested in the topic. It has a lot to do with how human societies relate to different kinds of drugs. And so he actually, as a mycologist, studies a lot of different kinds of drugs. I'm also an environmental biologist, so I know a lot about evolution. So I'm really interested in all these crazy different theories, including the stoned ape theory. So I'm going to be going over 3 main topics today. I'm first going to be going over how Terence McKenna created the theory. Second of all, I'm going to be telling you guys about the scientific phenomenon that he thinks that the stoned ape theory backed up. And then thirdly, I'm going to be talking about some of the evidence that he goes over to back up his stoned ape theory. So firstly, I'm going to be talking about the creation of it. This is Terence McKenna, and this is psilocybin, also known as psychedelic drugs. So Terence McKenna graduated from the University of California from Berkeley in the 60s, and the study of mycology is the study of mushrooms. And so during these studies on mushrooms, he would take a lot of psilocybin and experience big trips of drug overdose. During one of his trips, he experienced a big load of information and connected that to apes, and was like, oh, what if these apes also took psilocybin drugs, experienced a big rush of information overload, and achieved human consciousness? So Rachel Fettman in the Washington Post, when going over a study on psychedelic drugs, reported that all 15 participants experienced a rush of memory and emotion when taking psilocybin. So when I imagine Terence McKenna coming up with this theory, I imagine him experiencing this big rush and then connecting it to apes back 200,000 years ago. I personally watched one of my friends go on a psychedelic mushroom trip once, so I made this out of trip, and she stared at a tree for 15 minutes straight. Afterwards, she told me that she just felt like she saw everything in a whole new light. And so Terence McKenna thought that these apes were something like, oh my gosh, like everything is completely different, and then achieved human consciousness and the ability to be able to, like, I don't know, see everything differently. Now that I've gone over the creation of the stoned ape theory, I am going to go over the scientific phenomenon that Terence McKenna thinks that his theory backs up. So if you look on this board here, you're going to see the human, or the ape brain sizes, starting from about 4 million years ago all the way to like today. These are a whole bunch of, this is by the Smithsonian Institution of Human Origins program. So this graph here, and right here you see a sudden doubling of the brain around 200,000 years ago. Robbie Bierman from Big Think also quotes this. He said that, yeah, there's a sudden doubling of the brain around 200,000 years ago, which you can clearly see in this graph. And then above here, so Terence McKenna looked at information like this and connected it to his stoned ape theory. And up here is important because if you see it says like kind of similar like climate fluctuation, but around the same time that our brains doubled in size, there's really big climate fluctuation all the way up here. This relates to some of the evidence that Terence McKenna uses to back up his theory. Again, this theory is not proven by facts, has not been proven completely. Terence McKenna just proposed it, so not proven. So he looked at this, greatest climate fluctuation, and then ape brain size. Next I'm going to be going over Terence McKenna's Who the Gods book. So it's around 323 pages. It has a lot to do with like some of the evidence that he uses to back up his theory. It's a lot to go over, so I summed it up in little pictures. Terence McKenna states that his stoned ape theory, the exact quote that he uses to state it is, mutation-causing psychoactive research compounds in the early human diet directly influence the rapid reorganization of the brain's information processing capillaries. So that's the exact stoned ape theory quote, or the theory that he says. And I did pictures to describe it. So let's see if I can Okay. The stoned ape theory, as described in Terence McKenna's book. This also has a lot of good pictures, so you guys can pass them around. It's a really cool book. ago to 200,000 years ago, there was great climate fluctuations. Originally in prehistoric Africa, we lived in great rainforests. Terence McKenna proposed that when these big rainforests went down, we were pushed out to the savannas. In the savannas, we were exposed to larger animals, which laid larger feces. In these feces, psilocybin cubensis, also known as shrooms, grow. So we were exposed to these mushrooms, and since we were foragers, we ate these mushrooms. This caused us to go through immense psychological trips, okay? In these psychological trips, it reorganized our brain capillaries. So psilocybin in the brain, Terence McKenna states, replaces serotonin in your brain and releases a bunch of neurotransmitters. The neurotransmitters create new neurons, which also make your brain more susceptible to mutations. These mutations can be passed on to offspring and are more environmentally fit, which I will describe in the next slide. So these new neurons make the brain bigger, hence like the sudden doubling of the brain around 2,000 years ago. And so these new neurons make us more able to process more information and see everything in a different way. He states that this can be seen in society. So there was a lot more arrowheads found at this time. So we were actually able to fight better because the replacement of serotonin with psilocybin lowers the fear aspect in the brain. So we were able to fight better, making these mutant monkeys more environmentally fit. There was a rise of religion, the first religion flourishing around this time in prehistoric Africa, which can be explained. We were able to see everything in new light, and there was the rise of religions, as stated by Terence McKenna. There was the first there were the first prehistoric cave drawings found at the same time. So he says that this also can be described as psychedelic mushrooms, because crazy trips, you see crazy things. And the most important that he states is the rise of language. So language was first created in prehistoric Africa around this time. And he states that psychedelic mushrooms influenced communication. We were able to talk to each other. And by being able to talk to each other, we were able to create societies, and we were able to warn each other about dangers, and we were able to, create the first language, which is obviously going to do good things for our community. Therefore, the rise of human consciousness and human abilities. And so this was the stone ape theory, as proposed by Terence McKenna, where he connects psychedelic drugs to evolution. I hope you guys learned a little bit about this crazy theory. I'm not saying go around taking psychedelic mushrooms, but Terence McKenna sure thinks that you should. So.